Over the last few days, I've been thinking a lot about how we wanted to start this show, and things kept changing. The Islanders seemed like they were in good shape coming out of the weekend. They had back-to-back wins against the Lightning and the Flyers. Then they lose to the Capitals, and my mind's going back and forth. Then the Penguins are playing the Blackhawks, and I honestly couldn't get it straight. I started writing our notes multiple times, and then just decided there was a reason why we waited to record until after Wednesday. And so I stuck with that. I did the notes earlier this morning. So here we are. Despite all of the New York Islanders' problems, and you can listen to all of season 4 if you want the litany of issues this team has. Go back and listen to that on on YouTube or on Apple or wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you're listening to this. The Islanders are in the playoffs. Before
Could
that, though,
you could
go
you
ahead.
imagine though? Could you imagine though if we recorded Tuesday morning?
And that's like particularly why we waited, right? Because I think it could have been 3 hours long or 20 minutes or maybe much less than that of just absolutely not. We give up.
I
This
would have
is the
been
end.
like, that was embarrassing. Upload.
Yeah, yeah. That
Like,
sounds right. It would have been really hard to put our DraftKings ad in,
yeah.
but we would have figured it out. But yeah, it was just a disaster, and it was as it's been all season, a real roller coaster. But before we get into some of this, although we are on a little bit of a roll, I do want to talk about UBS because I went there. I had a different experience this time than my first time, which was about a year ago. In that I took the train, and this is for people that have been, maybe haven't had a chance to go there yet or anything like that. I took the train in on the Ronkonkoma line, very smooth. Took the train back, obviously smooth. Yeah, even a couple extra trains. Although I wish that they would have announced that. They added another Ronkonkoma and Huntington train, probably others, but I left before they came. So I wouldn't have left early if I knew that there were going to be extra trains and it wasn't going to be everybody piling on to these extra trains. But I had a chance, and I don't. Have you been there multiple times? Well, you've been there like covering some things, but like as a fan, have you been there multiple times?
As a fan, once I've been there as media a bunch of times now.
Did it take you a second to really appreciate what it was?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely did. I had been before before I went as a fan. I had been there probably like, let's say, a
Oh, you did
dozen
a
times.
walkthrough
I
in
did
in,
do a
in different
walkthrough.
things.
Yeah, while it was being built, I did do a walkthrough. Um, and all the media coverages, it's funny because like I go in like just like when I'm working that day, I just go in like just constantly thinking about like my stories that I'm writing and like who I'm going to talk to and who else, what other writers I might see if I have questions for them or stuff like that. So I didn't have a chance to like go to the arena and really take it in. And then I went as a fan and no expectations for the night or anything like that. I just wanted to go and just enjoy a hockey game for the night with my wife. And when I was walking from the parking garage to the arena, and like you have to kind of go down a hill, and then you go up a hill, and then once you get up the hill, the arena starts to emerge, and you start to see it. And I was like, wow, I've never seen it like this before for some reason. Like, holy crap, this is amazing. And then like you walk in through the main concourse, which you don't normally do as media, and then it hits you again. You're like, whoa, I totally forgot that like this is how beautiful this place is. This place is just amazing. Um and I had never had the experience of like going to concessions and to the team store and stuff like that. I haven't been to a ton of other arenas outside of the metro area. I would be surprised to see any arenas better than that one. It really was amazing.
I think it's hard to compare it sometimes to other arenas that I've been to because it is so new. So there's just some distinct advantages. Like it's just nicer, simply because it's new. But I put it on par with some of the other ones, particularly in Colorado. Um,
Yeah,
I
see, I haven't been
really
there.
I really like that one. I thought Dallas was also really nice. They also have a concourse. I went to Denver in December. I think I went to Dallas and December and Dallas and Denver in December. That's a tongue twister for all you
Hmm,
media people. That's a good
you got
warm
it.
up. But I was at both of those arenas in December, so it wasn't cold necessarily, but it wasn't super warm, so there wasn't like a ton of people outside. In Dallas, there was a good amount. Um, but in Colorado, they have a restaurant right inside that you can go to before the game and hang out, and then there's a stairway you can show your tickets and you can kind of walk up to the main concourse. But I bring this up because I was only there one other time, and I drove in and I was a little aggravated because it was a pain in the ass at the time. It was like pre-parking garage, and um, it was a pretty full game against Tampa last Thursday as well, but it was packed. It was the last game, I believe, the last game of the season against the Capitals, and they won 5-1. It's pretty cool. Got to see a lot of goals. I've seen a lot of goals actually
Yeah.
at UBS. Both games have been 4 or 5 goals or more. But I was there kind of early because we just caught the train. We just wanted a chance to kind of check things out in the concessions, and essentially the longest line there was for the Islander store for most of the time. And this
Oh
is
yeah.
doors open an hour and a half before the game, and it's hard to move in there. And I think I'm just happy that people are that interested. Like it wasn't one of those things where I was mad that there were so many people. I didn't want to, it seems a little gatekeepy to do that, but I was just excited. People were excited,
I
and it
was I was
was
also when I went to the team store for the first time, I was just enamored by the selection. There's so much.
oh my.
Like
So
there,
there's so much stuff. And I think I wasn't annoyed by this, but I questioned it for a second. They have really cool things that are not for sale as like
yeah.
display items. And I'm like, it was a baseball jersey. And I'm like, I want the
Oh, that's
baseball
cool.
jersey. And it was just on a mannequin. Like
Did you
I
see?
looked all over, couldn't find it. Coolest thing in there easily.
Did you see the jean jacket that was also cut up for a bunch of jerseys? That for me was like, okay, I need that.
All right. I mean, I think I appreciate a part of so I initially saw that and I cringed a little because it was cut up jerseys. And I
Yeah,
was
I
like,
get that.
"Oh, yikes." I don't know how I feel about that necessarily, but I can understand why someone would like it. It is not for me. That is not the type of
I wouldn't wear it,
okay,
but I
that's
want it.
fair. That's an interesting take. Well, you like want to create a whole like thing, an
Yeah. When I have
Islanders
my own
piece.
office eventually and like stuff is going to be behind me and everything, that would be like something I'd have up there. But yeah, no,
It
I,
is
I hear you.
it made me think that there are so many um original jerseys, so like dead stock jerseys that exist that the Islanders just have, right? And
Yeah.
they made all these new ones, and people are clamoring over these things on eBay. I'm willing to bet all of the original stuff exists somewhere. Like they just didn't sell them. They were selling. They made probably so much of this stuff, and it just changed so quickly. Even the Wave jerseys, I bet you that they
Sitting in a
exist.
box somewhere.
I'm sure they're sitting in a box somewhere. Last, and so last thing I'll say about the team store, I did see a Wave jersey with Kasperitis on it. And I was like, that's a very interesting. Like they purposely made that.
Did they?
I thought I was very surprised to see it. I did see a couple other Kasperitis jerseys walking around. So clearly there's something there. So three, including me, four, the one in the store, buried, in between a million other ones. But um, I thought it was interesting. I thought it was interesting that they brought it back at all, right? They're pushing the fisherman thing,
Yeah.
and they brought back this jersey too.
Well, so
Uh,
are you referring to the Wave jersey with the Islander logo or the Fisherman logo?
yes, no, with the Islander logo.
Oh, okay, because like I know there's a rack of those in there that have mostly Ziggy Palfy jerseys, and then as I was rifling through them, at a certain point, like I probably three quarters of the way through, the rest were Anders Lee, which was interesting to me.
I don't know how I feel about the when people are doing the new modern players on older jerseys, and I've seen this for a very long time.
Yeah,
There was over time, I've seen Bossy jerseys and Trottier and different things on modern jerseys, and it throws me off, and I feel the same way in reverse. I don't like seeing the newer players' names on these older jerseys. If it's a throwback, like, on purpose, because it's different. It's like it's never the same
Yeah.
thing. I don't mind. That's
I'm
fine. I understand that it's different, and this isn't a gatekeepy thing so much as just don't do it. And
I'm gonna
it's even worse when people have, like, my Fisherman jersey or my Wave jersey, and then they bring it to the team store and they put a modern player on it, and it's not the same lettering or the way that they did it, and it looks there was one I saw one, it was a Berard jersey, and it was an original starter Berard jersey with, Fisherman Wave, and it had it right across. It didn't have it in the pattern, but that's how it is on the modern jerseys, on the retro Fisherman, so it really annoys me.
I'm gonna get Ziggy Palfy on the Bridgeport Islander fisherman jersey.
Oh my I think I saw something like that. No,
Really?
no, no. I saw Cizikas. I saw a
I saw
Cizikas
Horvat.
jersey, and I guess it's unique. It's just very strange to me.
I did legitimately think of getting Defour or Iskakov because I for some reason like some names look really good on a jersey. Like Iskakov's name I think looks immaculate with number 17 and 17 is my number I wore it my whole life. So I did think about getting Iskakov on the jersey. I wound up just leaving it blank, but yeah, I did see some like I saw a Bo Horvat, I saw a Barzell, and I was like, oh, all right.
That's definitely a choice. Yeah, I don't
But
know
when
why.
like I said, when they make it the third jersey next season, it'll be fine.
Yeah, oh, I guess so. That makes a little more sense. I don't know why I'm such a stickler about it. I
Because
guess
you're a
it's not
jersey
for
snob. You're a merch snob.
a little bit. I don't own a whole lot of new stuff, although I do have this hat. If you're watching on YouTube, I did get this 7 panel hat at the team store last year, and it's a little big. The brim is very big, but I do like it. It's a rare hat that I'll wear. That's not one of my older ones. I kind of cycle through, so I don't wear through them. But
Yeah.
I did. The concessions were really good. It's super easy to get food. It's very
What'd you
very
eat?
quick. Had a big chicken baby,
Yes, you did.
um, with a Blue Line Deli bagel. It hit the spot. I mean, I had been thinking about it that whole week as well, so that didn't hurt. Um, but it was very good, and again, very quick. We had plenty of time to walk around. We got a pretzel and popcorn and this, and we looked around where the best beer selection was, and um, it's 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 just very nice. And I realized that I just didn't have that opportunity last time because I think I got there maybe too close to the start of the game and just wanted to get to the seats. So we kind of just like whatever was in the main concourse, grabbed it right there and just went to our seats. But I really enjoyed it, and it did feel a little more like home. Fans that have been there a bunch of times, maybe this is I'm probably late, but it did feel like where the Islanders play. It didn't feel like that last time. It was granted it was my first time there. It just felt like another place where they played. This felt a little more like home, and it turned out to be a great game. I called pretty much every goal right before it happened. My girlfriend asked me how I did that, but they were all like pretty much wide open chances. So I'm not that smart, but it was a very good game. I enjoyed it. The people around us were really good, and had a good experience on the Islanders ticket exchange. If you're nervous about that, I'm very nervous about that. On Facebook, it worked out. Check with people and look around, see if they've sold tickets to other people, um, and if it feels weird, don't buy them. That's that's all I'll say about that. Um, so as we said last week in last week's episode, this last 7 days was a nightmare, as we alluded to at the top of the show. It was back and forth. This episode would have been very different had we recorded it a couple days ago. Um, I do want to I do want to get to the actual Caps game when we talk about where we think the Islanders' downfall might be. But I want to start with the ridiculous Blackhawks win over the Penguins, um, and how that relates to the Islanders playing the Habs, because the Blackhawks winning against the Penguins is just as ridiculous as the Habs beating the Islanders. But then when they did it, I thought there's no chance. The Islanders are absolutely going to lose tomorrow night because that's just the way the winds are going, and the Penguins seem to just find a way every year. They find a way in. Um, I really didn't think that the Islanders had a chance. The Habs were just going to kind of come out and play spoiler. Did you have a chance to watch that Blackhawks game?
So no, I was covering the Devil game that night, but I was checking in on it periodically, and I was like, oh, it's 1-0 Blackhawks, but no way does Sidney Crosby let this happen, right? And then it's the second period, and it's still 1-0 halfway through, and I'm like, no, Crosby and Malkin and Letang, they're gonna figure it out. Like they have Gensel there, someone will score, right? Then they tie it. I'm like, yeah, they got it. It's fine. Seconds later, because now I'm standing out. The Devils game's over. I'm standing outside of the Devils locker room waiting to go in, and I get the alert 2-1 Blackhawks. I'm like, no. And it's like dying moments of the second period. I'm like, no, that's not gonna happen, right? And then suddenly, boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, no, like, and all the other media members are like, what is going on? And I'm like, this is wild right now. I'm standing here of the firm belief that the Islanders are cooked. They're done. They got embarrassed. They didn't take advantage when they were supposed to. No way is Sidney Crosby going to open the door and be like, "Don't worry, you guys go." Right? We'll sit out this time. 16 times in a row. That's enough. No way did I think that was going to happen. Sure enough, Penguins cannot, for some reason, muster up a win over the Blackhawks.
Part of it
And
was Jari played the puck, and he was really
yes,
bad at it, and he screwed up. I believe that was the third goal. So he really like single handedly put the nail in the coffin for the Penguins, and then it was pretty much over after
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I was just floored when I saw what was transpiring. And to top it off, the funniest thing was, the Penguins wanted to win that game for obvious reasons, but it's also kind of obvious that the Blackhawks organization, at least, wanted that game to be a loss because they need to look. Jonathan Tays isn't coming back next season. That was announced this morning.
I
Patrick
know.
Kane is
I don't know why they
already
did
gone.
that. I don't know
I
why they
don't
had
know
to do
either.
it like that.
Very strange. Kane is already gone. They're turning over a new leaf. They want Connor Bedard, and they win that game. They're like neck and neck for last place with Columbus and San Jose. And like the irony is that they wanted to lose, and they won that freaking game. It is unbelievable.
Yeah, well, what's funny is Gary Bettman and friends would lead you to believe that tanking does not exist,
It doesn't.
and yeah, I don't.
For the
There's a
players, it doesn't.
there's a part of me that yeah, and maybe that's the distinction. Because I do find it hard to believe the players aren't going out there and playing, right? I think it's just what's the quality of the collection of players that are out there when you're and Columbus is a really weird example because I don't quite understand how that worked out. I don't know. Is Line hurt? I know he was at some point in the season.
Yeah, at
I don't know.
some point he was.
Like their goaltending isn't great. They didn't have Corpusalo anymore. I don't know who their goalie is at this point. Um, right, that was their goalie. They traded him to
Yeah,
L.A.
they traded him to LA.
um, and then also traded Jonathan Quick, who was never going to report to Columbus, and now is in the playoffs with the Golden Knights. And I don't know if there's an actual chance. I don't know what the West really looks like as far as the playoffs are concerned, but I really hope that the Golden Knights and the Kings can find a way to face off. I think that would be
I don't think they
um,
are. Sorry to disappoint
certainly
you.
certainly not in the first round. But I don't know. I don't know if either of those. I don't know if the Kings
Right.
anyway could make it so far, but the Golden Knights are certainly more than capable, I think, of doing that now that they have everyone's kind of back and healthy for the most part.
Yeah.
Um, and so you mentioned Sidney Crosby and the 16 years and all this stuff. Is that one of the more overblown headlines right now? I even saw you tweet about it. I was a little disappointed because I had put this in the notes, and I was like, "This is stupid. Who cares?
I
Is
tweeted
it
about the top 5 songs of the year, right?
Yes, it was what the is yeah, very Twitter of you
Yeah, it
to
was.
to do that. The top hits the last year the Penguins didn't make the playoffs or something to that
Yes.
effect.
Yes.
I couldn't give less of a shit. I don't know if that's the right way to say that phrase. I kind of messed that up. I could not care less. There's not I can't figure out a way to care less about the Penguins not making the playoffs. And because I think if you went back and listened to earlier in the season, we were talking about how the Islanders were going to make it. Right, we're looking at this roster, and it was uh, uh, I think it was a little scary. I don't think we really knew where this team was going. This is obviously pre-Engvall and Horvat. They didn't do anything over the offseason, and other than Romanov, and we were a little worried or scared or nervous or just, frankly, passed on the Islanders season. I really did not think that we'd get to where we are right now.
Right.
And we said, I think both of us separately, that it was going to take the Penguins or the Capitals to drop off for the Islanders to get in because that's who they were going to wind up battling. The top of the division was pretty much set. I think everyone nailed that, and the Atlantic too. So it was pretty much Florida, the Islanders, the Penguins, and the Capitals. The Capitals actually dropped off a little bit early, and then a little bit late, and then Buffalo kind of surged again. So you just swap out Buffalo and the Capitals, but they were, so far behind. It was a little difficult to kind of make it back into the race in any kind of meaningful way. Although they were mathematically eliminated a week ago or so, or just a few days ago. But it's interesting that they both didn't make it. And that Florida, who looked like absolute garbage, had a huge resurgence of late. I don't think there's much of a coincidence after Keith Kachuk called them out, and then they went on a run and won 6 or 7 games in a row.
Yeah.
So it's a little wild to me, and that might be a little bit of the Islanders' downfall in whether they play Boston or Carolina, and so that's our next topic here. If correct me if I'm wrong, if Florida wins, the Islanders are the eighth seed, and they play Boston. Carolina wins, the Islanders play Carolina.
So, the Panthers need to win, in order to yeah, so the Panthers need to win, take 2 points in order to, play Carolina. If the Panthers lose, let's say they get a point, I think the Islanders have the tiebreaker, I'm pretty sure. So they'll stay in first place and play Carolina. And then if the Panthers win outright, they'll play Carolina. And if they lose, um, then they'll play Boston.
If if
So
Carolina loses,
let me simplify. If Florida takes 2 points, they'll play Carolina. If they take 1 point, they'll play Boston. If they lose completely, they'll still play Boston.
who they? Islanders they or
Panthers.
Panthers they? Okay.
Yeah, because they play tonight.
Right.
Islanders already played 82. So um, it's up to Florida. Florida wins, they play Carolina. Florida takes 1 point, they play Boston. Florida takes no points, they still play Boston.
Okay, I think that's what I said, and that was slightly more complicated, but
Sorry,
you've had a rough 24 hours, so
I
I'll
have.
I'll I'll uh, I'll allow it for now, I guess. I'll keep that in my back pocket for later. But knowing, I think by the time you're hearing this, unless you're watching it on YouTube, it might be up a little bit earlier. But probably by the time you're listening to this, we will already know who the Islanders are playing in the first round. Um, who would you rather play, and why is it Carolina?
you know, they're both not great options. However, I will say the Islanders have already upset the Carolina Hurricanes once. Does that bode well for the Islanders? Maybe not. Maybe Carolina comes in with a vengeance and wants to, get some revenge there. But it is Carolina, but just because obviously Boston is the juggernaut they are this season. I mean, their differential is double the next leading team. They're plus 127. Linus Olmark's probably going to win the Vezina, although there's an argument to be made there that it should be Sorokin or maybe even Connor Hellebuck. Um, so obviously for obvious reasons, you don't want to see Boston. You'd prefer to see Carolina. Plus, Carolina is missing one of their best players in Andrei Svechnikov. So, you don't want to make excuses for teams and be like, oh, I want to play them because they're the weaker opponent, right? You want to beat the best teams. But at the same time, if we're talking what's the best matchup just in general, yeah, it's probably Carolina. Um,
I definitely agree. I think Boston would just be too much to
yeah,
handle over 7 games. I think it's a matter of, can they steal a couple? Yeah, I see that. I think it would be a lot like the 2013 series against the Penguins. They definitely were not gonna win that series, but they made it very interesting. And what I keep hearing from other podcasts and what people are writing is that the Islanders are likely to give them the hardest time. I don't think they're actually paying attention to the Islanders, and they have this preconceived notion from what the Islanders used to be, because they are not the lockdown team that they were, right? And we've seen that in fits and spurts all season long. They've been able to do it, but not consistently. And really, the inconsistency thing goes back a really long time, and it might just be this group as a whole at this point because it's been a decade with most of them. But I, I I just don't see them being able to kind of play Boston tightly and win 4 of 7 from them. With Carolina, I think that's a little bit different. I think there's
right.
much more of a chance there, and I mean, they win the goaltending matchup. I think the
Well, and that's
Carolina's
exactly what
stronger
I was
on
going to say.
defense, and then it's a toss up from there, you know?
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say, right? Like the fact of the matter is that the goaltending in Carolina is super inconsistent. They have Ranta who can't stay healthy. They have Anderson who can't stay healthy, and then Kachekov comes up from the AHL when they need him to. Which I don't know if the AHL affiliate is in the playoffs for Carolina, but if they are, they're going to need a goaltender, and is it going to be Kachekov or are they going to have three goalies up with the NHL roster once the salary cap doesn't matter anymore? I don't know. But the thing is, it's just the goaltending is so inconsistent there that you could see Sorokin stealing a series. Like this is just the truth of the matter is that in my opinion, look, this isn't homerism, this isn't anything of the sort. This is just I think the pure fact is Ilya Sorokin is the best goaltender in the NHL right now. And he's just the reason why the Islanders are where they are. So, I could see him steal a series easily, and I understand, oh, they still have to score goals. Look, I think that's gonna happen, right? We haven't seen Barzell yet. I think he's coming back. I would be surprised if he's not in game 1. When he does come back, Horvat is gonna hopefully be shot out of a cannon because I you can't deny the chemistry that they built before Barzell went down with injury and
Can we
how
pause
that's
on Horvat for 1
yeah,
second? Because I think you're
yep,
right. I was thinking about this morning, in the car, and about Horvat and how I think a lot of people are on one side or the other on the argument with him in that he hasn't done what we expected him to do, which is score a ton of goals. And there's another camp that's saying he's done so many other things. I think I'm in the camp that he's done so many other things and has really helped out the team on the whole. But it's interesting when you think back to other players who kind of took a little bit of time to get acclimated to the Islanders. And when you think about it like that, by the time the playoffs rolled around, thinking Pajot, thinking Palmieri, by the time the playoffs rolled around, they were in much better shape, right? The team kind of gelled a little bit more as the playoffs went on, and I think Engvall seemed to do it pretty quickly. I think between Engvall, um, was it Engvall, Nelson, Parise? That line is Engvall, Nelson, Palmieri. I'm sorry, and that line is unstoppable. So I think to your point, and I think or what you were getting to is that Barzell comes back and everything kind of falls into place a little bit more seamlessly, and especially in the top 6.
right, and that's exactly it. So, um you know,
You know,
I
Zoom
it,
Go ahead.
the thing is just real quick. The thing is, everyone is so quick to dismiss the Islanders' offense, but really, I mean, we didn't get enough of a sample size of what it's like with a fully healthy lineup. So I think there is potential for some upsets there with that being the case, and Sorokin being as good as he is.
I I could tend to agree there, but I think zooming out and to your point on Barzell, regardless of who they play, is Barzell in being in the lineup or not really the difference here? I say this, I have an answer in mind, but
I mean,
if he doesn't return, are there's just no chance?
well, I mean, no, I don't think that there's no chance. But the thing is, think about like exactly the scenario of Horvat not playing as well as he was before he was gone, right? Like it's not going to make it, it's that yes, the Islanders could still potentially take a series without Barzal in the lineup, but I mean, obviously the chances are that much better with him in the lineup. I understand, oh, they play better without him, but I don't buy that necessarily. I think that yes, they all stepped up, and there were also the playoffs were hinging on whether their season was going to stay alive or not. So did they play better because Barzal wasn't in the lineup, or did they play better because they needed to play better?
I think that's it, and in the regular season, I think that's fine. I don't think they really have a chance without him.
That's been hockey is brought to you by DraftKings. It's NBA playoffs time. That means big hoops action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Get in on the excitement of every game with the touch of a button. New customers can make a $5 pregame moneyline bet and score $150 in bonus bets if their team wins. Plus, everyone can score a no sweat same game parlay every day during the NBA playoffs. So open the DraftKings Sportsbook app, opt in, and place a same game parlay on any NBA game. If it doesn't hit, you'll get a bonus bet back up to $10. With so many New York teams in the postseason, why not parlay for both the Knicks and the Nets to win a game? Download the app now and sign up with code THPN. New customers can make a $5 pregame moneyline bet and score $150 in bonus bets if their team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Unless Lamoriello actually, now that I think the Bridgeport Islanders are not in the playoffs. I believe that they did not make
That I'm not
the
sure about.
the Calder Cup playoffs. No, they just missed it. Um, by it looks like 5 points. I think their season's done at 70. Is it 72 games? But it looks like the everyone's kind of clinched here. So unless Lamoriello actually, without Barzell, you cannot have Holmstrom or Bailey in the lineup. You need to bring somebody else up. Durando, Iskakov. I really don't care. It cannot be either of them. That's kind of where I'm at. If you're not going to have Barzell and they also don't do that and insert some type of speed and just tenacity and some kind of hunger from a younger player, I, I'm I don't think I reasonably believe the Islanders have a shot against, certainly not against Boston. Much less than 50% against the Canes. I
Look,
just don't
I'm
believe
just
it.
gonna say, I get it, and I totally do. I'm not sitting here being like, oh yeah, the Islanders totally have a chance against the Boston Bruins. Look, anything can happen in the playoffs. Just gonna start there. But second, again, do I think the Bruins would win the series? I do. Do I think that we could sit here again after we've already done this how many times with the Islanders and be like, Yeah, no shot. Look, man, they last year happened. It was what it was. Think about the 2 years prior to that. The majority of this roster is still here. And if you really think about it, I I understand who's not behind the bench anymore, but piece for piece, they might be better with Horvat in the equation now. Dobson has grown into what he has, but the biggest thing for me is the goaltending is way better than it was when they were in the Eastern Conference Finals. Those uh, two seasons that they went, Sorokin is far and away better than what they were. The goaltending situation was back then. So if you really think about it piece by piece, this team is actually better. And I understand they got in by the skin of their teeth. Other teams have changed. I get all of that. I don't know, man. Like this is something feels and look, the end of the season was what it was, right? Like embarrassing loss to almost not make it into the playoffs like they did it to themselves. I get it. The it's almost a brand new season. Things it not almost it is. It's a brand new season. It's the postseason. Brand new, clean slate. I have a feeling Barzell's going to be back. I have a feeling Romanov is going to be okay. Like this team is, although the last team to get in, the last day of the season, they're dangerous.
It's interesting to hear you say that. Obviously you're the optimist on the show, so I'm not surprised to hear you say that. I think, and what you brought up was going to be my next point. I think that's all great. I even believe most of it. I've then watched them play against the Capitals and in some of these other games, and they've just been terrible.
I agree with
So,
you.
and I think, and once you start falling behind 2 and 3 nothing in the playoffs, man, I get really worried.
I agree with you. However, how many times did we let's go back to episode, I don't know, 40.
I wish we had were I wish I was better at editing and, like, can go find it and be like, let
Right.
me go back.
How many times did we say this then? Right? Like, is that not true?
I think they figured it out, but it was not, um they played less of a role in it than they should have. They should have ended the season with 4 wins. I
Right.
mean, the Tampa one was a surprise to me. Elliott was terrible. I don't know that that game goes that way without Vasilevsky. Um, I didn't think any of the Islanders' goals were particularly, like, jaw-dropping, right? It was just good opportunities, and they played a good game, right? I maybe that
Right.
happens on any given night, who knows? But Elliott was terrible, like, really, really bad.
Yeah.
So they take those 2 points, and they put themselves in better position. I guess how you this has just been the problem most of the season, and a critique that I've had. The people behind the bench, nor sitting on the bench, are ready for these games. They are not getting to the rink prepared. So I saw I think I think I tweeted it from our account. There was a Parise quote about um about their preparation. And I said, I would go back and watch the tape, man, because I think we're watching. I know you experienced it firsthand, but from where a lot of us sit, you were not prepared. And Sorokin just, for the first time in a long time, just didn't bail them out. I think on most nights he's fine, and maybe it's a 1-0, um, end of the first period. But I thought it was, yeah. He said urgency is always there for us. I think that's thrown around a little loosely. You'll never convince me we weren't urgent and we weren't ready to play. I wouldn't say we didn't have urgency. I don't think that's fair. I don't know. I mean, definitely burn the tape, but before you actually do that, watch it through, man, because that's not the case. That is not what the rest of us experience um, from the seats and on TV. It was a bad game. And that's really the issue, right? And that's like this whole next segment that I want to talk about is what are the pitfalls and downfalls of this Islanders team in the first round? Obviously, the Caps games issues. in a vacuum are a problem just in that one game, but that's really just a microcosm of this season. What else could be going wrong in this first round series for the Islanders that whether it's Boston or the Canes, you know, could essentially just find them on the golf course a little early.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. Like you see when this team is like decides they have to turn it on and they need to win a game, they'll do it. And then there are just some games where they mail it in. And the thing that was really surprising for me against the Capitals was that you're right. You had said Sorokin wasn't particularly good in that game. So whereas he's look, in my opinion, again, like I said earlier, the best in the NHL right now. That was a bit concerning for me. Like if he has a blunder, I don't think he would, right? It's so rare that he does something like that. But if he does have a blunder in the postseason, the Islanders I don't know are equipped enough to pick him up, you know,
They get
in that
dejected,
kind of
it seems,
situation.
very quickly, right? They've
That
come
too.
back in games, and I think that that shows something that what they're capable of, but that's not all the time. They did it a lot. I think it was a lot more in the early parts of the season than it was at the end of the season. I think that
Yeah.
was a trend throughout the NHL, but they seem to get dejected. And again, that goes back to that leadership thing. Horvat, I think, certainly helped with and without Barzell in the lineup. I think his presence simply helped the team kind of put it together. I don't think that Nelson or Lee or Clutterbuck, who came back a little bit later, I don't think those voices are coming out flat or something like that, or even Lambert for that matter. They're just not doing their job. Like it's just not being. They're just not effective. So I'm not sure. I think Barzell coming back would be a huge boost, but that leadership really needs to come through from some of those guys and the experience that they've all had, making it very far. Essentially, I don't want to say against all odds, but against some really good teams. They beat Boston in the bubble after the Capitals. I think that may be a forgotten thing in all of this. I don't think that's impossible.
Yeah.
They got swept by the Canes after they swept the Penguins, but the record on teams that sweep losing the next round is high.
Yeah.
There's a high probability that if you sweep around and you're sitting around, you will likely lose the next one unless you're just an absolute juggernaut. But I think it's very rare that ultimately happens. Going back, what are some other things? I have some things written down, but what do you think of some other things the Islanders need to just get focused on to actually make it through round one?
Uh, their power play. I mean, holy crap, that thing is which I don't understand how it's worse than ever. I who was the who was the bench coach last year that ran the power play? It's escaping me.
Oh my god.
Regardless, that coach is with the LA Kings and they have like one of the best power plays in the league right now, which makes me wonder is it the personnel on the ice? Like has it just gone so stale? you know, and look, like I get it, like they're back in the playoffs. They played better this season, obviously, than they did last season. New system 5-on-5 with Lambert, yada yada. I don't know. Like, is this just like do they not have enough specialists for a power play to be adequate?
They need one more Brock Nelson. Well, and that should be Horvat, but now that the power play is kind of going through him as a passer because Barzell is there,
Yeah, that's the thing.
therein lies the problem. So I think they have what they need as on that first unit. Dobson is has been quiet. I think he's been playing quite poorly, frankly, as of late. But he has not been the offensive force that he was going through what was it, November, December, and then the end of last season. And Pulak is a shell of his former self on both sides of the ice. So you don't really have somebody to that can either quarterback with Barzell, which I would suggest because when Barzell's on the ice, all eyes are on him and they know it's going to be Barzell to Horvat. But they need somebody else that can really step up and quarterback that first power play unit on from a defensive perspective, so that it takes some eyes off Barzell, right? You need to be able to set up Horvat or Barzell or Nelson for that matter, kind of like Ovechkin. I'm not comparing those players to Ovechkin, but they need to treat it like that's their superstar and just get him the puck. Nelson can score a ton of goals in the power play, and so can Horvat. You just need to be able to get it there. And without Barzell and without Dobson or Pulak being able to set them up, it's simply not happening. I do also think a quiet Brock Nelson will be the death of this team, especially if Barzell doesn't come back,
Yeah,
because he's been carrying this team lately.
that's you said it really well there. And I don't think that's going to happen. Look, Brock Nelson, everybody said after last season, like, okay, that was his best season. He's not going to be able to repeat that, right? He said, "Hold my beer." Right? He had 36 goals this year. He had 37 last year, but he had a career high in points. He had 75. So, and the thing that's most interesting to me is on any other team that prioritizes offense, Brock Nelson's scoring 45 goals. He's got maybe 90 points. I'm convinced.
I could agree with
He
that.
he's not that player on this team, and well, he's not getting that output on this team, but he is that kind of a player.
You almost need
Um,
Islanders adjusted points for
right, and that's exactly
their
what it
players.
is. We'll have to get stats by Zach to you know run that simulation just because you think about a team who can't score 3 goals a game, right? They're at 2.98, I believe. They don't score 2 goals a game, but Brock Nelson still has 36. That's impressive. So I don't foresee him going cold in the playoffs. He has made it well known that he's a guy who's going to lead this team, at least offensively. The problem for me is Matthew Barzell has been out for 6 weeks. He's still second in scoring.
Oh yeah, it's a huge problem.
Right.
You're gonna need some heroes, and I
He was second in
give
scoring when he went down. He's
give
still
Palmieri a
second in
little credit.
scoring.
I would look at
That I
points
will.
per game here and as another factor instead of just the points, because that might actually give us a little bit more insight into who's been actually effective and kind of helping. And it has been more of a team effort, I think,
Yeah.
even with Barzell. And I want to go back to Nelson for 1 second because I have a little bit of trivia for you. This will either be really easy or you're gonna rack your brain and be mad that you don't know the answer. Who is the last Islanders player to score 35 or more goals in back-to-back seasons?
Matt Molson.
He scored 35 in back-to-back seasons?
Maybe it wasn't that much.
First of all, I don't know if I'm, now we have to look this up in real time because he slipped my mind as somebody that was even capable of that, frankly. For the New York Islanders, he did not have back-to-back.
Okay, so it's somebody before Matt Molson's time is what you're saying.
That seems to be where we're at, but he did score 3 30-goal seasons in a row, and he might be, I think Tavares did that, and I think there were a couple other players, but, um, here and there. But, yeah, I guess it's before Molson's time, although his time does go back pretty far.
So it's before Matt Molson, and it's not John Tavares because that was my next guess.
No, I would say not long before that, but before that. Think about even who the 30 or 35 goal scorers were, or even players that came close.
Trying to
Gravin
remember,
had
did Jason
34.
Blake score 35 and then 40?
That may have fallen off my radar too. I thought he had just the one 40-goal season. No, he scored 28 and then 40.
Okay. Is it Palfy?
That was the answer that I came up with. I could not come up with any. I think he had 3 in a row, and they were all
Okay.
40-goal seasons. Um,
Oh.
that's how long it's been because Tavares had 2 35 goals plus seasons, but it was with the Islanders, and the next year was with Toronto. And he had
Ah.
a bunch of 30s in a row. Lee had a 40-goal season, couldn't return to that. Blake had the 40-goal season. Um, I don't think Parrish had a ton more than maybe one season. Um, I'm gonna double check. Someone will correct me. I'm I'm sure, but no, he had one. Parrish had 130 goal season, but so there really haven't been a lot of Islanders with more than 35 goals, and certainly not in back-to-back seasons. So if I'm wrong, please correct me um, in the what has been deemed by another podcast as the compliment section, either on Twitter or on YouTube. Um, we talked about power play continuous to stink as a potential downfall. I think Sorokin becoming human. I don't even want to say it would be his version of becoming a pumpkin, but just playing on a human level. I really don't know if that's possible. I don't think that we're going to see him play poorly. If the Islanders do lose in the first round, his numbers aren't going to be great. I think that's just the nature of losing. Um, 4 out of 5, 4 out of 6, or 4 out of 7. Your number. It's such a small sample size. Your numbers are not going to look good unless it's 1-0 or 2-0 games, um, or just low scoring games in general. And there's a ton of shots, but I don't see that happening. Do you? That's an obvious downfall, right? Like that's something that if he just doesn't play well, this team is toast. That might be the biggest one of them all.
Yeah, I mean, that's easily true. If Sorokin doesn't play well, this team is toast. It's like I said earlier, they don't have the firepower. They don't have the offensive prowess. They don't possess the puck enough to be able to, put a band-aid on bad goaltending. So I don't think that Sorokin will, you know, become human. I think he's inhumane and will forever be inhumane. But with the very off chance that it happens, yeah, I don't think that the Islanders are equipped enough to put a band-aid on that.
I don't think he's inhumane. I think he's superhuman. That may have been what you were
Okay.
going. I know that's what you meant. Inhumane would be like
Well, he's a robot.
he's hurting people, and like he's not treating people humanely. But I understand what you were saying. I'm just being a
Maybe I'm
stickler.
reading too many comic books lately.
Maybe I wouldn't trust that as your thesaurus or any way to kind of expand
Oh.
your your words here. But as I struggle to just get that sentence out, clearly I'm not reading enough either. Um, I said this before on a little bit of a rant. What does the lineup look like if it really does come down to Bailey or Holmstrom? What should Lane Lambert do at this point? I mean, they're both just warm bodies out there, and
You know what
the
it is?
bench.
I think Holmstrom has this knack for showing up in a big moment. Everything else that he does is like, you're right, a warm body, but sometimes he just clicks. And he was kind of, and which is not going to happen if Barzell returns, but he was kind of forming a little bit of chemistry with Horvat. Thing to me is that you saw what Lane Lambert did yesterday or 2 days ago. As you hear this in inserting Josh Bailey into game 82 with the season on the line, it's clear that he's going to lean on his veterans. And so if it comes down to who am I putting in, Bailey or Holmstrom, no one should be surprised if it's Bailey.
I think that's right, and I think I saw a few people tweet before the game if they win this game and make it to the playoffs, they're for sure going to keep Bailey in the lineup.
Right. And
I
that's the
got like
thing. Like, I don't believe he should be. I think he should be scratched. However, a coach's mentality is if it's not broken, don't fix it. And you're not going to change the lineup after a win.
yeah, as I said earlier, I think it should be one of the kids. I don't think he should be put on the first line.
Right.
I think if you're gonna put a veteran presence on that first line with Lee and Horvat, if Barzell's not back, I think you put Parise up there and you stick Durando with Peugeot and Engvall. No, um, God, who is that third line?
It's
And
Parise
Fashing,
and Fashing.
Peugeot,
Yeah.
Fashing, and Durando, or whatever. I think I think that would be better. At least
Right.
it keeps things a little bit more consistent in your top six, and you have I don't want to say firepower, but Parise did score 20 goals, maybe even 21 goals this season. So it's not like he isn't capable of putting the puck in the net, and he has a ton of energy. Um, I think he's a better third liner because he's sneaky good with Peugeot, and Fashing, and that third line is if the Islanders make it, the stars are supposed to score. The top two lines are supposed to score and make an impact. It's whose third line is going to win you the game. Who's Hudson Fashing is going to score you that game-winning goal late. It's very rarely the star, right? And on the big stages, you have the Kane winning the game and against the Flyers in 2000, was that 10? Whatever that was in OT. But a lot of times it's the third and fourth lines and your bottom six really winning you that championship with an extra goal chipped in here or there. So obviously I think he's better in that spot. But if Barzal's not going to come back, I really do think you got to get the kids in there. Um, I also want to end with Pulak and Pellick. Now I don't have the numbers, and I probably could have just looked at stats by Zach, um, and any other of the analytics gurus out there. But are they not playing well, or is that am I just seeing that? Does it seem like they're not playing well and it's actually fine, or is the eye test actually telling me the truth here?
It's funny you say this because I did see I forget who tweeted it. Um, Someone in the Islander community had tweeted, if there was another expansion and we had to protect a certain amount of players, Ryan Pullock would not be on my list. I think Adam Pellick is still playing pretty well. I think he's doing a lot to mask some of the um, issues that are on the blue line right now. Or at least trying to. And look, when you're the when you're the 30-minute defenseman because you're the number one or most dependent on, right? And it's just obviously an exaggerated number, but if you're on the ice for the majority of the shifts as the number one defenseman, you're going to be out there for some mistakes too. It's going to happen, right? It's just that's how numbers work. So I don't think Pellick is much of an issue. I think Pollock is definitely struggling a little bit. However, um, you hope to get some playoff Pollock back in magic back into him a little bit. A couple what was it, 2 years ago now, where he made that immaculate game winning save, if you will. Um, but yeah, Pulak is definitely playing a little off right now. There's been some, questions too, and it shocks me. But there's been some questions too as to why the Islanders have been hesitant to put him on the power play. And I'm like, did we all forget? Like, did we all forget he was? And just look, fact of the matter is he can't hit the net. What are you gonna do? Reed Fulton 1 out of 5, Ryan Pulock 1 out of 10.
Which is crazy because he had all those seasons in a row. I say all those seasons. I think it was maybe three of 10 goals, 9 and 10 goals a season,
Right.
and at least putting the puck on the net and getting assists. And he was at 35, maybe in that kind of range for points. And it's just been crazy to see him kind of fall off as that type of player. And then in addition, Dobson, who was stepping up in that role, is now not doing that.
Yeah.
And then Romanov is also had, I think he was labeled more as a tougher player, but he's not necessarily contributing in that way. Aho is also not doing that. And then Pellick is just simply not that type of player all the time. So it's really frustrating to see the back end who was contributing very well at the beginning of the season. If I'm not mistaken, they were leading the league in points by defensemen. And then that just completely fall off the rest of the way. When that really probably could have helped when they were inconsistent on forward and in the scoring department to kind of come in and maybe level it off for a bit. But it's disappointing. I think that pairing needs to kind of lead the way. I think in addition to Sorokin and Barzell returning and Sorokin just not becoming a pumpkin, I think the Pulak Pellick pairing really needs to kind of lead the way in being that lockdown kind of defensive team that we're used to seeing here. Do you have anything? We just hit the hour mark, maybe a little bit longer with the ad. What any last thoughts here before we wrap it up and cross our fingers um, that for the playoffs begin next week?
You just want them to be healthy. That's really it. If they're healthy, Barzell's good to go. Romanov's good to go. I I think it's again, it's like I want to be careful about making this comparison. Maybe you can tell me if I'm way off here. But the pyramids, right? The pyramids, they're perfectly crafted. One notch goes out of place, that whole thing is off. That's exactly what the Islanders are. They're they're a pyramid. One notch is out of place, the whole thing is off.
I'm
You keep
hearing that
Barzell
they're
in
a
the
pyramid
lineup.
scheme,
They're a pyramid scheme. There it is.
but in a
Uh,
weird, but in that's a bad thing. We don't want them to be a pyramid scheme. We don't.
right.
They're selling us on something bad, but then we're going to tell two more friends that look, no, but the Islanders are really good, and then we kind of keep doing that, and that's how the Islanders fan base has stayed afloat over the last 20 years of, or if Jesus, since the 80s or early 90s when they they made any kind of thing until the conference final, going back to back there, but. Um, I think that's a fair point. They just really need to be locked in. I hope that they can get that focus back, and there's enough of these players that were on those long runs that can do that. I think that's where the leadership needs to really step up here. I want Horvat to be hungry. I don't think he's really ever been in this type of position before with a team that can make some noise. They're definitely an underdog in both potential series. They really just need to kind of pull together here, as you said, and just kind of be lockstep. Um, Before we wrap it up, though, I do want to end with this. Since and including the 2000 Stanley Cup, the President's Trophy winner, the President's Trophy winners have won the Stanley Cup just 4 times. 3 of them, 2 were the Wings, 1 were the Avs, were before the salary cap, so before the 2004 lockout. Hawks did it in the shortened 2013 season. Exception to the rule over the last almost 20 years. So there's something here. If they play Boston, it's not a lock. I don't know. These other teams that won may have lost further into the playoffs, but if history tells us anything, it's not exactly a lock. Maybe the first round, but it's not. There's a chance here. So that's my optimism as we a rare moment of optimism.
Look,
More
leading
anxiety
up
than anything, but
leading up to the playoffs, you listen to any radio shows talking about matchups and scenarios and who's going to play who in the first round. Majority of the time, you'll hear people say if the Islanders make the playoffs, you don't want to see them in the first round.
like I
The way
said
it is.
earlier, I don't think they were watching the team as closely this season because it's very different than it's been in the past. But if they can pull it together, I agree.
I don't
We
think
have
you have
not
to.
seen
That's the
that
thing.
happen.
I agree with you. They probably haven't watched the team in the regular season. I don't think you have to because again, we can copy and paste the episode 40 and publish it today and people would hear what we're talking about and be like, "Oh yeah, that applies right now." I think that that's a known thing. They're not built to get to the playoffs. They're built to be in the playoffs. And nobody want and I know you don't necessarily love that. I think there's truth to it and they're really
I mean,
hard to
I
play in the playoffs.
it's not that I don't like it. It doesn't give me a warm and fuzzy feeling. I know we saw it twice, it's just under very different circumstances. So I want them to be able to pull it together for
Yeah.
real. After a long season, be
Yeah.
able to kind of do that. No breaks, no shortened thing, no just one division. N- Actually go in and burn the tape. Forget the regular season happened. I'm happy to do that and walk into this series thinking differently. They have not really earned that this year. They have not earned us giving them a clean slate going into the playoffs. I'm willing to try. I know I'm going to get burned on this, but I'm willing to at least try and go into that first round series and think, okay, there's something here. Let's see what they can do. Because look, if they lose in the first round and it was a good series, fine. I don't mind if they make it and really push Boston, even if it's a 4-2 series, right? I think that 2013 series against the Penguins was a great series. They lost 4-2. It was a lot closer than that. I'm willing to go even as far as I might even enjoy it if they lose the first round. If they just play well. No one is going to remember that
Yeah.
necessarily, right? But you think back to that Carolina series after they swept the Penguins, and they weren't good at all. And they kicked the Penguins' ass in the first round. Now that team was, bad as far as the Penguins are concerned, but they went into Carolina and just laid an egg, regardless of, they had to wait or this or that. If you're built for the playoffs, what happened? The next 2 years they ran into the Lightning. Fine. They also won the Cups those years. You lost to the Stanley Cup
Yeah,
champion. Fine.
I hear you.
But if you're a playoff team, then be a playoff team. Don't just make it. We have
I
elites.
guess
We
we'll
don't need
see.
more than one of those. Yes.
I guess we'll see.
Um, we'll post on Twitter when we think the next episode is going to be recorded. I don't think we have a playoff schedule. Obviously, we don't have a playoff schedule yet because we don't at this very moment do not know who they're playing. But we'll try to work around it so that this is I don't know about an off day or something, maybe a game day episode. I'm not sure. We try not to be too picky about that this season as we have been in the past, but um, we'll try to time it the best we can.
For
Please rate,
relevancy.
review. Say that again.
For relevancy.
For relevancy, yeah. If only for that. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Aspen Hockey. You can find James' work at the Fourth Period. Make sure to subscribe for Isles Fix before the playoffs start, and stay tuned during the playoffs. They're going to have some great newsletters as things continue, and obviously into the summer and in the off season as things kind of ramp up there. Whenever that starts for the Islanders, hopefully much later into spring and maybe even, well, not the early summer, much later in the spring than it is right now. James, bring us home.
Till next time, all. Let's go, Islanders.